didn't know of its existence. Or
No,
I
she's
remember as a child going to the Salem Witch Museum and all of that. I have relatives in Massachusetts, and of course, it's highly commercialized and exactly what a kid would have been looking for. But I realized that it wasn't. I've always been kind of a history buff, so I knew there were some issues. But in reading the book, um, I really liked the historical account as much as she could put together of a historical account, because I know the records are really spotty, but I really am enjoying getting the actual history. Um, and of course, she has to speculate a little bit about what characters might be thinking, and really not much different than if you're writing, even if you're writing nonfiction. Sometimes you always have to think about what other people might be thinking. So her perspective is in there a little bit, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it doesn't really bother me. So I'm enjoying the book. Um, I've just had a lot of work things going on, and then when we first started the book club, I was already reading another book that I needed to finish. So I'm behind, but I am enjoying it. And every now and then the speculative conversations get to me a little bit, but
Mhm.
not too much. So
So you definitely see
overall,
yourself finishing it, though?
yes, yeah, I do.
Sounds good. Yeah, I agree. I think the bits and pieces in there that were italicized, kind of giving us some different accounts just based off of what she thought they would be thinking. And it's not that, Miss Roach here doesn't know what she's, all of her books,
Right.
every book she's written is about the Salem witch trials. I totally like whatever she thinks is happening, I believe her,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I did like those moments, and it was
yep.
nice to kind of take a break from just history, person, new
I
person, this family. It was kind of nice to like,
I agree.
and then when you're reading history, can kind of just, you do sometimes just glaze over characters. So it's nice to kind of give that
Mm-hmm.
intimate moment, I guess, with the
Right,
characters as well.
right,
So what do you think
right.
of it, Ralph?
Uh, I agree. I didn't finish it, but it was not out of not wanting to. It was just that it was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Every like when you get the book, you're like, oh, cool. And like it's a little thick, it's a little intimidating, but then you open it and you see just the amount of text on
Mm-hmm.
each page, and that's when you start realizing, oh, this is going to take a while. And it was a lot more scholarly than I thought it would be. I
Mm-hmm.
I I was blown away as to the fact like the last eighth of the book was an appendices and a bibliography. So the amount of research that she put into this and the amount of time she put into this to get things accurate and truly specifically tell the stories of these specific people.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. It
Mm-hmm.
it I don't know if any of you guys know about the You're Wrong About podcast, but it kind of like had that feel of like I already knew going into it, same as what you said, Cindy. I already knew going into it that everything that we thought we knew about the Salem witch trials
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
complete hooey, but it was
Yeah.
this kind of, I loved how deep it got into
Mm-hmm.
how much bullshit
Yeah.
we had been
Yeah.
fed about the Salem witch
Yeah.
trials and what actually happened. So again, even though I didn't finish it, it wasn't out of, same with me. I had nothing on my plate at the beginning of the month, and then all of a sudden I got called from like 3 clients. It's like, we need it, it's done, it's done this, and I was like, okay, I'll hurry as fast as I can and try
Yeah.
to finish those because I really want to read this book. But I do intend to finish it because honestly, and I think Patricia, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit by chat. Just what getting past that almost like historical part of just her setting everything up. Once you get past that, it
Mm-hmm.
really hits the gas, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of drastic. Once you get from the, all right, I need to introduce this person, and then their lineage, and then where they come from, and what ship they came on, and all
Yeah.
of this. Once you get past all of that, it really starts moving quickly, and I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed that once
Mm-hmm.
once it got there. But the first 110, 120 pages, I was like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do this. I know
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and I needed that though. Like we needed that
Yeah.
introduction.
Mhm.
but man,
Yeah.
wow. I was like, okay, I can do it. But honestly, like I was having a easier time though, I think, reading those because I knew kind of what was happening as far as like, okay, we're just gonna learn about the characters, or the characters, listen to me, we're the people.
Sure.
Right.
But then like the next section, or just going through month by month of now, I mean, even before the trials, like I said, you don't even get to the trials until page 200 something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I thought was fascinating because again, all we hear is in May of 1692 this happened. So it's like it's nice to kind of, we have one more person. It's nice to kind of
She added cheese to my salad.
Well, that was nice.
Where's
love
my
my kid.
chef?
I don't know. My wife's downstairs finishing dinner and everything just kind of came out, and my kids are all bringing dinner up to this is lovely. I'm getting a full buffet while we're doing this.
Yeah.
Things could not be going better for me right now.
My husband's watching the game. He has no interest in what I'm doing at all. Doesn't care. Probably doesn't even know I'm not there.
But I also appreciate the last minute changes to like the meeting times and everything. I just,
Sure.
So much is happening right now. I put on my Instagram today that I needed an assistant, and I mean it. And I'm waiting for somebody to apply because holy shit. Hey, thank you for joining.
Hi, Maggie.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. We're just kind of sharing our overall thoughts of the book. It seems that, well, I've got a few people here on my TikTok live that are also saying that they did not finish it. I am guilty of that. I'm curious if you're part of the show us your bookmark.
I finished the book. I did not take notes or anything, but my mom and I both read it. I think she'll be joining soon, actually.
Oh, cool.
So I read it all over a long weekend. So it's all somewhere in there, but I might be a little fuzzy on the details.
I mean, I wish I could store it up in here, but I need colorful tabs. I need
Right.
colors.
Yeah.
That's awesome though. Oh my God, you're doing it with your mom. I love that. Oh my
So cool.
Thanks.
so sweet. So what are your overall thoughts of the book? We're just kind of going over the basics right now. Of course, you finished it, so you don't intend on finishing it. We've done that, but overall thoughts. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I had been somewhat familiar with the Salem witch trials in general, I think in the same way that most people are familiar with it. And then I thought it was really interesting in just how she kind of highlighted what the mindset was probably like for people during that time period. Like there's a lot of unknowns in general. So it was good to see like this might not be terms, but this is still pretty effective storytelling, at least from everything that she was able to find for what it was probably like. So I thought that was interesting. I think my mom is joining now.
Oh, fun.
I love that.
By the way, your shirt is amazing, Maggie. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
That is a cool
thank
shirt.
you. I work for PBS.
Oh, you do? That's delightful.
Do for a local PBS station. So.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yes,
so cool.
Thank you.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Hello.
I love this.
We all know you. We all know you now.
Oh, the story she told us. Wow.
I love that. I love it. So, okay. So Linda, what did you think of the book overall?
Well, I am pretty well versed in the topic because I've been a history teacher. I've moved on to some administrative level now, but I found it fascinating, the level of detail, the way it came to life as opposed to history books that I've read, which are much more just, fact. And they seemed much more like real people. And it was just, you can imagine the devastation and how these threats, these accusations could be manipulated for so many different reasons. And it's just so frightening, I think, that element of danger, really, that they were living in under the auspices of religion and, living in this community and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about as well when we first started, was like the thing that we were discussing first was just them feeling like people, right? And like the author putting us like into the minds, like, of course these are not going to be actual accounts, because as we learned, a lot of records were lost, but it's still nice to like have that intimate moment with these women. So that was definitely brought up. Overall though, so I mean, being a history teacher though, like, did you think this was like well done? Did you think like it was, I mean, not necessarily accurate, I guess there's a word that I can't place right now, but I guess does it seem to follow exactly what you remember, I guess? Or
Yeah, I would say the majority of it. I found it very engaging. It was an engaging way to present the information. And it's very meaty. I mean, it's a long book. There's a lot of information there. But I thought it really painted the time well. It gave you an idea of what real life, or as much as we know of real life at the time, was. I found it quite factual. I mean, I certainly did not focus on this as a huge portion of my curriculum. It was, but from the material that I've used in the past, I found this to be rather factual. And then just that engagement level, I think that's what makes people interested in history or in historical topics, is when you can fully engage them in a intriguing way.
Yeah. Would this be something you'd recommend to students if they wanted to learn more about it? Or
I'd say some of my students, I work in a middle school.
Sure.
But it's middle school, it's for gifted kids. So their reading level and understanding is quite high. But they're also very sensitive kids. And so you have to watch what you share with them, because even though they're intellectually very superior, they feel things deeply. And I'd say for a few kids who were looking for something extra, absolutely. But as a whole, I'd have to be a little careful with my group, just because, that gifted characteristic of feeling things extremely deeply, and then ruminating on it and constantly thinking about it, and then putting themselves in that position, it could be problematic. We've had some kids. I used to teach about the Reformation too. And I had a few kids who actually went through like major religious crises when they were learning all this information, because they have to figure out how they feel about it and putting themselves in that position. So yes, but I would say for maybe somebody a little bit older than my group or not so sensitive, I think it'd be, something I definitely recommend.
My sister is in college right now, actually studying to be a teacher. Times like middle school, that's like what she wants to do, so that's super cool. I mean, I was thinking that's like one of my, whenever I finish a book, for some reason one of my first thoughts is, am I going to recommend this to people? Like, is this something that I would like people to read? And I feel like a lot of people might be a little intimidated by this, so I'm not sure yet, but I still think it was pretty good. I still had a couple of things I guess with maybe not necessarily her writing, but just like there's a lot of information. I mean, I was joking with Maggie that I needed like color. I needed color tabs. I needed to like separate exactly where everything is, and because it was just a lot for I couldn't even finish it, and I was on a roll at first, and like I was telling them that like the introductions were, I guess, easier for me to read because it was just that, and I'm just learning about people. But then afterwards, I'm like having to keep up with dates. But the biggest thing I really wish I had in this, and she has some things like it, especially in the middle here when we have some maps, I really needed like a family tree, like multiple family trees, because there's so many names, and at the time
Same
there was
names.
like 7 names, right? Everybody, it was either a Mary or an Elizabeth and an Anne, and it was like, oh my goodness, there was just so many people that at times I really needed some sort of like, I mean, even if the book opened this way, like I just needed something. And at first, what happened to I had a notebook. At first I was keeping up with characters and like trying to, I keep calling them characters, people, but I was really trying to keep up with everybody, and then it kind of fell off for me, which kind of made my reading start to I felt like I was glazing over parts, and I hate doing that. But otherwise, I was really trying to underline and learn as much as I can, because some parts I did have to like research, but not all the time. I do think that there was a lot to take away from this, as far as just history goes, because history was not my strong suit. I think a part of it too is I just didn't have good history teachers, and that's really unfortunate. But a lot of the times my history teachers were like the football coach because they couldn't find anybody to teach history. So personally, I knew that this happened, didn't know anything else. Have I watched ghost shows where they supposedly talk to Bridget Bishop? Absolutely. However, sense of my knowledge after that just evaporates. So this was just personally a lot for me to take in. However, I would love to finish it, not just because this looks weird, only half tabbed, but because I'm curious. So I'm happy to hear that those who finished it or those who are further than me are enjoying it. It definitely encourages me to continue, because it was kind of tricky at times, I'm not gonna lie. And I did go look at Goodreads to kind of see what other people were rating it, and I think it has like a 3.5 out of 5 on Goodreads overall. And the 5-star reviews were just saying, like, this was a great learning experience, kind of like what you were saying. But also, like, there were a couple 1 stars where people were like, this was all over the place, this was hard to follow, and I feel leaning towards that category, unfortunately. And I don't know if that's just my learning or what exactly. So I'm glad to hear y'all enjoyed it. That was our first book. I mean, I was so nervous about this. There were a couple things that I wanted to highlight in this, specifically the religious parts of it. I think I know what she was wanting to do and accomplish with this. However, I wanted a little bit more science, if that makes sense. I wanted a little bit more explanation, because for a while we were just hearing about these fits and these tantrums. And that's kind of what we have heard about these women who were afflicted by witches. And there was one, I couldn't believe it. I was making a note about not getting as much science, I guess, and of course we're not going to get that. This was so long ago. I don't think we were going to get anything remotely like what I'm asking for, but it blew my mind. I literally was writing like, I want more science. And then the next page was like a solid paragraph about, okay, these were happening, and people were having seizures and they didn't know what seizures were, type thing. And of course I'm tabbed all to hell and I can't find it, but that's one of the things that I was wanting in it. I don't know who said something, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for that too. I don't know if there's a very good scientific way for explaining it, but I know there was a lot of pressure at the time with, invasions and people losing their lives and things like that. But just mass hysteria is something that it's difficult, I guess, to understand, and right. how it could happen and how it could spread. And then, I thought, is there any documentation of any of these accusers whose testimony sent people to their death? Did they ever think later what a horrific thing that they did? Like, did they realize what they had done and feel bad about it? Or did they just, it was just what happened back in the 1690s and it was no big deal. I don't know what happened afterwards.
It's curious because it really depends on, the people that they trust most, what they're telling them from the pulpit or the position of power is that they were justified in doing that. And when you're indoctrinated like that, not that ever happens in modern times, but hypothetically, when you're indoctrinated like that, it's so hard to sift through just sitting in the pews or the seats or whatever and just saying amen to that narrative being fed to you by these people who you're supposed to trust. So I'd be very curious too as to later in life, did any of them recant or
any of these children
look back and go and say, God, that was what I did to these people was terrible.
Right. And especially the kids, because you don't really know if the kids were just imitating other kids or.
Certainly.
You just don't know. And I don't know.
So I did flip through the to the back when I realized today that there was no way I was going to finish this on time. So there is a part in the afterword about Rebecca Nurse specifically, and that quote where there's actually the introduction where it says, "I am innocent and God will clear my innocency." So there was a service held July 30th, 1885. And apparently the Danvers Mirror reported that it is believed that this is the first service of the kind ever rendered to any person, certainly in this country, who was put to death for alleged witchcraft. And then once ownership passed out of the family in 1908, the Rebecca Nurse Memorial Association acquired the farm, restored the house. I'm guessing this is on land. I didn't go all the way back. But Rebecca Nurse's memory and innocence remain duly honored, which I thought was
I actually went there I looked it up on Google Maps, and the farm is there and marked. You can actually go to Google Maps and type in Rebecca Nurse Salem, and it comes up.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's, I joke about this with my aunt quite a bit. Gosh, if we were in that time, we would definitely be burned at the stake or hung or whatever. We joke about it, but then like reading it, I want to stop making those jokes.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Especially, not being a religious person, it's just frustrating when you hear these certain norms and ideals just forced upon, and I guess it was just the time, but that's, situation. So I found it was page 123 is basically saying convulsions may be the result of physical ills, epilepsy, fevers, poisons, hypertension, emotions, hysteria, or a combination of the two. But what's interesting, and this is one of the issues that I did have, because I noticed the author would sometimes go back and forth between this invisible world or this invisible spirit, she would say, and then the devil, and then back to convulsions or a seizure. This person had a seizure that day, and then later it would say something else. But I thought this was interesting where it says a person sympathizing. Okay, so convulsions from either actually means they are contagious. A person sympathizing with another who suffers seizures can, as fear and excitement mount, also react the same way if they expect convulsions to be a logical outcome of the situation. And in 1692, some, though not all, of the fits may have been, as critics have long stated, pretense, acting, and lies. And then she mentions a Chadwick Hansen who did a 1969 study called The Witchcraft at Salem. In addition, great fear can cause a person to breathe in shallow, rapid breaths that, supplying insufficient oxygen to the brain, can cloud vision and cause convulsions and unconsciousness. But because the afflicted tended to recover quickly from their fits, the cause was not likely physical. So the whole time I was wondering, what does she think? Does she believe that these things were happening, or what exactly was her? But that was that moment that I was like, finally, we're going to get maybe some explanation to this, and that isn't just, witchcraft or the devil, and all this. But then that last sentence, I was like, wait, wait a minute. What do you mean this is not likely physical?
That's where the book sometimes started feeling like those, unknown mystery shows that you referenced earlier. It's like,
it's unsettling.
Was it this, or was it this, or was it this? Find out after the break. And you're like, what is it?
It's unsettling. It's like you want a tainted food source or something. You want something that's causing this to happen, and there's no explanation.
And
those sound like panic attacks. They sound like almost like an anxiety attack. It could be if the other person is experiencing when the same person's experiencing it.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that even happens today. Sometimes, I really just feed off of other people's energy empathically. And I think if somebody's, panicking, I'm going to panic, I'm going to feel that. And they had no grasp of what that was back then. So that was one of it's not necessarily an issue, but it's just one of those things where I wish we had an answer or an explanation to this, because so many people died. It's horribly tragic. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
And I apologize, since I came in late. I'm not sure if you guys talked about this at all, but there is that theory that it was ergot poisoning, which is, from the grain. And I think we've seen, you wonder why, well, then why didn't everybody experience those same symptoms if that was it? But let's just look at COVID right now. People who are tested positive and are asymptomatic, and other people have these horrific symptoms. So
Yeah.
I don't think we can rule that out.
Yeah,
Same
that's
thing with mass hysteria. There have been so many cases throughout history of people who really didn't have an idea that they weren't purposefully doing this, but joining into these issues of mass hysteria and
Mhm.
becoming participants and having these weird behaviors because of
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
and then not being able to explain it later or take, what am I trying to say? Like, own it,
Mhm.
themselves. And it's a shame that it was so long ago and records were so poorly kept that
Mhm. Mhm.
this will be a mystery forever. We'll never know
Yeah.
for
But
sure.
you think about, I mean, they lived in terror pretty much because, and the kids would hear their parents talking about, these Indian attacks and all of this other stuff that was going on, and kids have to hear that stuff.
Mhm.
And I mean, kids are really the same. They hear everything in the house. You might not think they do, but they do. And they're talking about all of that stuff, and a child can't process that. And even if you're older and you have this kind of trauma going on an ongoing basis, you start to feel inside like, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, they lived in terror, I guess. And I would assume, that might be the cause of the hysteria starting up. I don't
There's
know.
always something happening, right?
Mhm.
Whether it be the attacks or whether it be some sort of new sickness going around.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it
Death
just,
is a part of everyday life.
And
yeah.
food insecurity, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something to take into account too. I mean, they were constantly in fear when, of course, anxiety not really being a
Mhm.
thing yet. That's, of course, going to be running amok.
Yep.
They didn't even realize it. And it's really unfortunate. But I mean, other than that, did anybody else have any like little nitpicks, I guess, with the book or the writing or anything like that?
No, I'm intrigued. I'm going to finish reading it. So, a couple of parts have been tough, but it's worth it. So I'm gonna keep reading.
I also had to remind myself what the Puritans were.
Yeah.
Had to do some
Yes.
history lesson here. Could have used you, Linda, to teach basic
Well,
history.
yeah. And, also playing a part is the fact that religion really was their daily life, kind of like today, the Amish
Very much.
live their religion. It's
Mhm.
not something you
Yes.
do for an hour a week or whatever.
Mhm.
And so you can't discount too that
And even that was a little scary, right? I mean,
Right,
hellfire
right.
and damnation.
yes, all the time. And that constancy of thinking about religion and the
Mhm.
afterlife and
Mhm.
making good decisions because you want to go to heaven, and
Right.
that would weigh heavily on anybody. But when
Mhm.
you're living it every moment of every day, that must have been very difficult.
Mhm.
And I think
I-
I saw a part that said that they weren't necessarily going to New England because of land, but also religion. I think that was a big part too that I wrote down, and of course can't find, so my color tabs are doing me dirty. Anyway, what were you gonna say, Ralph? Sorry, I cut
Oh,
you off.
I did find that part of the history, just like how many different pastors or ministers went through that one parish right there. That
Yeah.
whole, I don't know, that kind of felt like almost like a very like intrigue. I felt like I was watching a series of Succession or something,
Yeah.
or with just all the, I mean, like the backstabbing, and then, oh, we don't like this guy, so let's
Yeah.
get him out.
They were treated pretty shabbily.
Oh my word!
You
It
can have
was
the house. No, never mind. We'll give you wood. No, we won't.
right.
The drama.
It was. I like that is just really fast. And how much did that play into with that much
Yeah.
unknown of how many ministers they went through over like a 5 to 7 year period
They
leading
never
up to this?
like them.
No,
Yeah.
because and there was always some reason. And here's, you want to talk about religious trauma. I'm a preacher's kid, so which is a whole, that's like a Zoom for an entire another time we could take up.
Hey, I dated a preacher's kid in high school. It's all true what they say.
I'm so sorry. I mean, literally, but yes, it is. There's the black sheep of the anyway. Like I said, we could really go off on a whole tangent there, but I just thought that was just really really interesting. And obviously each minister is kind of bringing in their own take of these things and what did they believe about the supernatural and the unknown. So how much was that playing into, plus the insecurity of who's going to be preaching the next sermon this Sunday and what are they going to say. So talking about that, I feel like that area, everything, and Patricia made a really good point that now that I'm looking back at that, history was really important to say everything that was happening was leading up to this point in 1691, 1692, where that things were just so something like this was bound to happen. Sure. And these women ended up, and some of the men ended up being victims of all of these factors playing together to lead to what happened.
Because they
weren't like they were desperate to try to fix it, so they just started hanging people, because it wasn't long afterwards when they were like, maybe we shouldn't be hanging all these people. It's like they just wanted to make the problem go away.
But also it just seemed to spread too, right?
Yes.
Like they would point fingers, and there was one part where it was saying like people were still having fits despite them throwing 10 people into the Salem jail, and people are like, okay, well, these 10 people are definitely witches, but there's still 10 people over here that are also most likely witch. And it's just like, and then I didn't know this, but they were pointing fingers at each other.
Yep.
I didn't know that. Where the whole, like they were so
trying to save themselves.
Yeah, they were so desperate to try and get it off their shoulders. They were like, I don't know, Mary English is looking a little suspicious, and Bridget Bishop opened her mouth. And I was like, oh my God, guys, this
gossip. And it hit me kind of funny. It's like a light moment for me was realizing that they were putting physical beings in jail, thinking that their specters were going to stay with them or something. Like that was going to keep their specters from going out wherever they were going. Let's just throw them in jail and keep them there.
One of the last things I read that also was kind of humorous to me was, I can't remember who it was, but they were coming to arrest her. It might have been Mary. No. Who was married to Philip? See?
Mary, English.
Was it Mary and Philip? Okay, so they were coming to arrest her, but because it was like past her bedtime, she refused to leave her bed. And they literally were like, we're going to come back in the morning. And
it made me laugh too. And then she took her sweet time in the morning too.
Like, this is not my time to wake up. And they left again.
It's like me in the morning. No, I am not talking anything serious until I've had my 2 cups of coffee.
Right. Like
if only the modern justice system was that way. It's like, can you come back? I'm just not a good time.
Leaving this bed.
I have a salad to eat and got a show to watch.
I got so much to do. I got this 400-page book to finish. I got so much to do. But that part was humorous,
funny.
That I would love to use at some point. I did want to go over Tituba. Hope I'm saying that right, Tituba, because page 66 was fascinating to me, because at this point we're like 3 pages deep into her and her backstory, and then we get to a part where they're saying, okay, there was a slave child called Tatuba, was inventoried, God, I hate that, among the contents of our Barbadian sugar plantation owned by a Samuel Thompson. If the girl from Amakura were the same child, then perhaps she was the same young woman.
That's where the speculation got to me a little bit right there, because
and then there's a part that just says, or perhaps not.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this
that's one time it got to me.
Yeah, Linda, as a history teacher, in terms of citing sources, what?
I mean, this might not even be the same person. I mean, but it's also just the time, like just slaves not having anything other than their master, and it just
but you can almost tell really that the writer was just wishing so bad that she could figure it out.
But it seems like she kind of did, though. I feel like she did in a way, because it seems like it seems likely that this is the person, but I don't know. And it's okay, she does say on page 69, what is certain is that Tituba was an enslaved woman of color owned in 1692 by the Reverend Samuel Parris of Salem Village. So that person did exist, but I guess necessarily how they got there.
I'm not really sure about her backstory. Yeah.
Right. So I guess as a history teacher, how do you, because a lot of this, of course, was the records were lost, or this part of the court document was, burned or thrown away, which just killed me. But I guess I guess that's a pretty common thing with that time period, is we're not necessarily going to have exact answers. I don't know, like what was your take on that?
Yeah, well, and just the fact too that, here you have whole groups of people who aren't valued enough to keep records about them. And it is
Right.
mind blowing. And, that inhumanity
Yeah.
that was thrust on them. I mean, slavery, et cetera, but to not have your life recorded, to not be able to make those connections. Primary sources are so important in any kind of research. And there are just huge gaps, vast swaths where you can't get information to be 100% sure because they weren't valued enough to even write anything down about them.
Yeah. They were on a property list.
Mhm.
It's sad.
Yeah.
There was one thing that she wrote in here that I didn't necessarily agree with. And of course, here I am trying to find it. But it was essentially right when Tituba started. I think it was a part of the italicized section where Tituba's actually, she kind of is the one that, did she start it? And did I interpret that wrong? Or is she the one kind of like putting the idea out there that the devil is like this black dog or this black figure? And just
it was her testimony.
It was just kind of like, I don't know if I don't know exactly where she was getting some of her story from, or if she was really seeing that, or what exactly. I didn't interpret that correctly. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm wrong on that end, but there was a part where she kind of said that the witchcraft was kind of a new task along with slavery, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that wording. I'm gonna find it eventually, but it was an interesting choice, in my opinion, especially since it was the italicized part where she was kind of, oh, you know what? Orange. It's orange. Orange tab. So people are thinking Tituba is a witch. And then, okay, so there's two people that I wanted more from that I feel like came out of nowhere. And this is a different topic than what we're on right now, but Goody Osborne and Sarah Good. Also the switching from like their first and last name to Goody.
Mhm.
Goody was, what did Goody mean? That
mean a title?
Yeah. It's almost like saying Mr. or Mrs. or something, or
Okay.
I mean, that's not what it meant, but it was like
that's what I thought. It was like
good wife so-and-so.
Yeah, because they said like mistress English, and then it seemed like it was mistress and then goody or good wife and then just Mary or whoever.
Yeah, if it was Mary, I was like, gosh, what Mary are we talking about? I'm thinking of Handmaid's Tale of Warren and stuff like that. Yeah, I can't find the exact part, but it was kind of it was an interesting choice, but it was essentially like Tituba is now being faced with something that is more dangerous than slavery or something like that, and I was like, ooh, I don't like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys were here, Maggie and Linda, at the beginning, but like my biggest issue was I might have said this when you guys were here, but I just really needed some sort of family tree or some sort of like map, because there was just so many people and there were so many similar names. Because yeah, there were some times where I was reading Mary and I was wondering which Mary were we talking about exactly. But other than that, there was one interesting part, and it's interesting because I'm watching the documentary on Netflix about it's called The Way Down, of that one cult out of Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very good.
Watched it yet? Is it good?
Very good, first of all. But there was, and I was actually, fun fact, I was in Nashville when that plane went down and had no idea that was the thing. We went to Brentwood because my
Oh,
sister's in
wow.
a sorority and she wanted to go see the sorority house that's like there or stationed there. I don't know how sororities work, but we were there. And then my mom was like looking at her phone. She's like, a plane just went down in a river we just passed. Anyway, what I thought was interesting was page 143. Let me, because my handwriting is garbage. It had a similar thing. Even church members should examine their own hearts for the weakness that let the devil in, even as they pray for a solution to the present crisis of the devil's invasion. So there is one part in this documentary where there is some marriage trouble, like you couldn't get divorced in this church, right? And it's essentially, it's a Christian-based church where the leader is this woman who believes that there is a correlation between dieting and Jesus, and is essentially writing all these books about, staying thin for the good, the greater good or whatever. And it's asinine, but a ton of people were members, and she was creating this, this, I mean, I don't even know, this insane just group of people, right, that were totally buying into
It's
this
a cult.
cult.
You can call it a cult. It's
We'll
a
call
cult.
TikTok cult o'clock,
Safe word.
It's a cult. And they had multiple buildings anyway, so you couldn't get divorced. And so sometimes it'd be marriage counseling, because at any minute that they thought something was awry or that like evil was coming in, it was because there were people in the church not doing what they were supposed to do.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is 1692, and we are still here in 2021 with these same thoughts, because, well, specifically, trigger warning, miscarriage here, but the lady in charge, Gwen, her daughter had or not a miscarriage, her young infant, like 6-month-old, died, and he was sick and he just didn't make it. And in Gwen's mind and in the church's mind was, somebody out there is not doing what they're supposed to do. Somebody out there is not so they literally had people come in for couples counseling, like, what's going on in your marriage? Is everything okay? Like, because they thought that like there was like a presence among the congregation. So I read that, I was like, oh my God, this is.
And that's how trauma spreads.
Here we are.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as religious trauma. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
We're gonna get along great.
Everything's fine.
I'm so happy.
Help.
So I thought that's something that I thought was interesting. That this is still I mean, even my father, he stars right below me. Even my father the other day was talking about how scary the devil is and how scary all this stuff is. And it's still such this, it's a presence still that they feel is lingering. And I feel like this, I mean, unfortunately, if they had their way, I unfortunately think stuff like this would still be happening, because it's so scary to them. I don't know. I could be totally jumping to conclusions there, but I just feel like it's something that still kind of lingers.
I think it's kind of human nature. I mean, if you look throughout history, all these different cultures, whether you're talking about small tribes or larger civilizations that seem quite civilized, they all seem to have this means of trying to keep behavior under control. And one, obvious method is that idea of evil or the devil or some sort of dark influence, as a means of explaining or trying to navigate through life with all these bad things that happen to good people. Or, the Romans were extremely superstitious people, and they read everything from entrails of animals to how birds were flying in the sky to figure out the answers to their decisions that they need to make. And you look at the Romans, and holy cow, they were one of the most advanced as far as technology and things that we're still using today. And yet that's how they had to make sense of the world around them. And in Salem, when you're talking about people trying to navigate through those religious beliefs, and as somebody said, the most trusted people in your village are, the one who's most educated would be that minister. And so you naturally would go to whatever they were saying. You would trust them because they are educated and, That makes such a difference, but it seems to be everywhere. These ideas seem to permeate, and it must just be a human reaction to the world.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, I understand how it can be a scary thing, an unseen force, this invisible world that's attacking people that they care about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but were there people, like younger people in the book or in history, and where they were kind of just making it up just to kind of get a rise out of people? Was that in the, I feel like I passed something similar to that, but I'm not entirely sure. I think at one point too they even tried to trick Mary English. There was, or oh my God, which character was that? Was it Mary?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was in this particular book, but that has been in different sources where,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a manipulation. Choices.
The Mary Warren character, I think, starts doubting herself in her
Mm.
Yeah.
and sounded like she kind of started not feeling so comfortable with the idea anymore.
Page 168, when Mary, she remained calm while her husband fumed, and the officers, non-pulsed, reconsidered as they were reluctant to lay hands on a gentlewoman in her own bed. They compromised. They would leave a guard about the house. She must come with them in the morning. Oh my God. Yeah, that got me. Okay, so the part, who are you? Mary, I think this is Mary Warren, was in Salem jail, accompanied by Reverend Nicholas Noyes and Simon Willard, took notes. They wanted to know the book that she had touched and saw the flourish in, which I think was like the devil's book that they were apparently signing as their, introduction to witchcraft or whatever. Had it been a Bible? She said no. And then they gave her something that looked like a Bible, but it was not. And they held the volume open before her, told her to read from it. She could only make out the word Moses. So John Proctor handed the book to her, but as soon as her fingerprint touched it, barely touched the page, a black mark appeared. This frightened her, and when she moved her hand to place her finger on another line, her hand was drawn back to the stain. She knew there was nothing on her hands except for butter or sweat, but not blood. She had not signed the book, but when she picked up her bread, the darkness from her fingers smudged it. So were they trying to trick her, or what exactly were they trying to do? Because why would they give her something that just looked like a Bible? I was kind of confused by this part, and then there were some parts, I guess, in her writing too, where it wasn't exactly specific for me, and I was kind of trying to interpret, but at the same time, I'm like, no, I'm trying to learn. I don't have time for interpretation. What are you trying to tell me? Just be straightforward. But that's just me. So I was wondering, where they had these tactics in play where they were like, we're gonna make them look super guilty just so we feel like we're getting to the bottom of this, or what exactly? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. And
No.
you do know that books were extremely scarce at this time. So any book that they might have had probably was religious in nature, even if it wasn't the Bible. So it probably would have been some sort of philosopher or religious leader, or something. But I don't know about manipulative techniques at that time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I was kind of confused as to what exactly stained it. Was it blood, or, and she was freaking out because she was only eating bread and there was nothing that would have stained the page. So it was a little bit too up in the air for me to try and take something from that, especially if they were using manipulation tactics. I would like for that to have been a little bit more, they were using manipulation tactics type, but again, that's just me. I don't know. Other than that, I mean, I personally would like to finish the book at some point. But I mean, at the same time, I feel like this is gonna be one of those books where I've kept it in this little bag and I just take it on trips with me. And if I get a chance, I feel like I will finish it at some point. But right now, I'm not really in too much of a rush because it's just so much information that it feels like a workout for me at times. I really enjoyed learning about it, but again, it was a lot for me at times. So yeah, I will get to it eventually.
I've actually read the November book already. I read it a year or so ago. So I'm going to take that time to finish reading this one.
So I'm very excited about.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. I love that
Right
stuff.
up my alley. And I'm contemplating getting a new one because it got stuck to another book and the back of it like ripped off. And I know it's
When
bad,
people are having if you had it to do all
Uh.
over again, what would you be? And my answer is always the one that everybody else thinks is bizarre, which is, well, I'd be a forensic pathologist,
Yes. Same. I went to college for film and television production. I got my degree in that, and I'm not a regretful person by any means. I love what I did for a little while, and I still kind of dabble in it now. But I went to one of the only schools in the country with a body farm, and I did not pursue forensic anthropology, and I hate it every day. Why didn't I do that? Man, why didn't I do that? So of course I still have time, and then I really wanted to be a mortician for a little while too.
I've had the same thoughts. And my dad was a police officer.
What is
so
that?
I was exposed to true crime early, and my dad helped out just because he wanted to. He helped out a friend of his who owned a funeral home. He was like an apprentice, but he was never actually going to do anything else with it. But yeah, so yeah.
It's funny because my mom's side of the family, we always joke that my mom's side of the family is like all in the death industry. Her uncle helped run a funeral home. Her other uncle sold tombstones, and then her other brother-in-law and that brother-in-law's kids, they worked at a cemetery, and they actually dug the holes and buried him. And it's like, so we always joked, it's like my mom's family's just like this one-stop shop. If you die, all we needed was all we needed was a serial killer in our family, and we could have just been a point to point, just help get rid of them all.
Job security.
That's funny.
Job security.
That's funny. We talked about
I'm not around that at all, so I'm very jealous.
we talk about retirement, and I always say I'm going to have to work a part-time job, and my husband's like, you could always see if you can get a part-time job in the morgue.
Yes.
Yeah,
people are scampering there.
You want my resume? Because I'll do it. I was live on TikTok. I gave people the opportunity to hop on TikTok, just even if they hadn't read the book. But I did have somebody in here, Samantha, who is a regular on my lives and a friend of mine on the TikTok. She also didn't get a chance to finish it. And she also mentions that pseudo seizures are real and it's psychological, not physical. She also said my grandma joined a religious cult in 2017. And she left it at that. So Samantha, I'm gonna need you to
cool.
Was it LuLaRoe?
We want to know more.
Was it LuLaRoe?
Can she hop on the Zoom?
Be careful, because seriously, anti-MLM TikTok is a thing that you can totally go down a rabbit hole like that. That is
very aware.
my For You page is like true crime and anti-MLM TikTok, and I am equally as just like scrolly fascinated by this is so cool. It's like I have a type.
I have found my
as soon as the
people.
Lula Rich documentary came out, there were so many pairs of leggings at Goodwill. It was so funny to see.
Oh my god. Okay, so I haven't watched that yet, but I would love to.
It's really good.
I live in a small southern town.
Oh wow.
So I get messages sometimes from girlfriends that I went to high school with that drive those pink Cadillacs. Samantha, I'm gonna need to.
Do they hun you? H-U-N? Hey, hun.
Hey, darling, how you doing? It's been a
Hey,
while.
hun.
Can you have a little party for me, because I'm getting
Did you
ready
catch my live?
close to the end of the month, and I need to
Did you catch my live on Facebook last night?
No, I didn't, Samantha. Also, I love that she said a grandma joined it in 2017, so I'm very curious as to which one it was.
Yeah.
She was also saying that in the Crucible, people were definitely making it up. She wasn't sure about this one. She said absolutely would love to elaborate. Yes, please. I'm gonna need a whole separate Zoom on just that.
Send us the link.
Y'all know me. I'm fascinated by cults, and I mean, I lived in
Yeah.
LA, and that was actually, I was warned because when I first moved to LA, for some reason, one of the things that I did was watch Leah Remini's show, because there's
Yes,
a Scientology
I
Oh,
love that
yeah.
show.
on every corner. I love that show. And I was
Yeah.
working on this, I was working for a CBS show, and I was talking
Mhm.
about it. And the APOC actually pulled me aside one day, and he's like, just be very careful who you talk to Scientology about, because there's a lot of them out there that you won't know until you say the
absolutely.
wrong thing. And I was like,
She was
Mhm.
pretty brave,
oh,
actually.
Yeah.
She was pretty darn brave.
Luckily she's
Yeah.
got the money in case anything were to
Mhm.
happen, I feel, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it's so necessary what she's doing that it's
And she knew she was going to have to be full on public about it to keep
Yeah.
them from being able to touch her.
like
So-
what Shelley Miscavige. We haven't seen her in the past.
Mhm.
Yeah, where is she?
decades.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
could talk about Scientology for months.
Oh geez. Yeah, I decided never. I was born and raised in the Midwest, did film and television production work, and about 11 or 12 years ago, the spouse and I were like, this is during the recession, and we're like, things are just drying up here. Where do we go? And I had a couple opportunities in LA, and I was like, nope, I'm not moving my family to LA because of that culture. So we moved to the Pacific Northwest. So we've been in Seattle for the past 11 years, so which was a much better choice. I mean,
Virginia.
we're all a little weird up here too, but it's
It's a good kind of
it's
weird.
better. It's better than Ohio, let me tell you.
I live in Virginia, but
Okay.
I had moved away. I was in Arizona, and then I was in Florida for a while. So it was a job related, but I'm actually from Virginia. I just
Gotcha.
didn't intentionally end up back here, but it's okay. But
Yeah, I'm in North
all
Carolina.
right. North Carolina.
I love
About
North-
Maggie and Linda, where are you guys?
Indiana.
Great
I'm in,
state of
uh,
Indiana.
They're in Ohio,
Yeah.
they're just not telling us. They're
Yes.
like
I know. I can't believe I actually admitted I'm from Ohio. Now I feel like all 5 of you are like, oh, we're so sorry.
my grandpa's from Ohio. I was just in Ohio 2 weekends ago.
Yeah,
It was just in Ohio.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, I found a really cool bookstore when I was there. So
There are some really cool.
Ohio's cool
You were
too.
you were the one in Columbus. It's one of
Oh,
Stacey. It was one of Stacey and
I've been
I's
there.
favorite. It's
They
so
it's like
cool.
a coffee shop, and you
Yeah.
can sit and read. But I've been there.
And then
32
the-
rooms.
It is just
32,
incredible.
and it looks like a maze. Like you get I lost Chris in there at one point. I was calling him, and then I realized he left his phone in his car. And for a minute, I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna have to just like stand outside and hope he comes outside at some point, because I have lost him. I can't find him. We're done. Like I just
Oh, we
um,
love it.
Samantha
Love
says
it.
I'm in Michigan. I'm so delayed. Like look, because I can't.
Oh wow, we're all like from that same pocket. Like it's so funny. We're all just a few states apart.
But yeah, I would love, and it was so sad that the one Scientology book that was like a choice like got like no votes, but like me and like 6 other people, and I was like, damn, I really wanted to read the book about Scientology. I'm sure we will at some point, but yes,
I have that book, but I haven't read it yet, so I'm looking forward to that too. We got to read it at some point.
I
Yeah.
would love. I've read only a
agree.
little bit of it, but it's so good so far, and it's such a personal experience. It's her uncle. Her uncle's
Yeah.
David Miscavige. What the hell?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
this is our November book. I'm super excited for it. It's much smaller. It is still lengthy. It's got small words, so it's gonna take a little while, but the middle part has pictures that aren't gruesome, but fascinating.
That's disappointing.
Well, those are behind me if you want to borrow those. I keep those out of out of frame. There's a lot of Black Dahlia pictures in there that the internet would not like to see right now. I guarantee you that.
Great. That's a
Fair
great
enough.
one there. Black Dahlia.
I know. I tried when I was in LA, I went to the Millennium Biltmore Hotel to do a ghost hunt with Stacia's Weird. I don't know if you guys know her on TikTok.
Wow.
But she works for Zach Bagans. She literally works for his museum, and she does ghost hunting for a
Oh,
living.
wow.
She's amazing. And I was trying so hard to talk to Elizabeth. I was like sitting in these ballrooms by myself, like, Elizabeth, man, please come talk to me. I have so many questions. I'm just nothing. It's fine. But yeah, so I mean it's the end of the month. November 1st is on Monday. I will put up another poll for our December book just to kind of have them ready. I mean, anything between now and December, as far as, or I mean, I guess in the new year as well, ordering things is going to be very tricky. There's going to be lots of Christmas shopping happening. Y'all know this. So I'm going to go ahead and post the next poll. I'll do 3 books again. And then as far as meetings go, I'm going to try and do them like I was intending to, and with a poll again, just, you know, see how many people can come to this date, and then we'll pick a time. Again, I appreciate this last minute decision. I need to keep up with my calendar better. But yeah, I mean,
well, thanks for being flexible. I mean, and letting other people thanks for doing 2 dates, because that was great. And I know that's probably not tenable for you.
Oh, it's
because of how busy you are.
I feel like it's easy.
Is
so
it good?
I hate for people to miss out. And there's so many. I mean, there's 215 members of this book club, which is amazing. I'm so excited. So I wanted to at least have a couple different dates, especially like I was saying, this really should have started at the beginning of the year, because we're getting all the holidays out of the way right now, and I knew this was just going to be tricky. But I'm so excited. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts on this? I just kind of wrapped it up there without us kind of getting too much more into it. I just wanted to highlight a few of those parts that I thought were interesting, but the whole book's interesting, you know? So I didn't know if there's any other bits and pieces that y'all wanted to mention.
No, I'm good.
I heard, Maggie, I heard you smile like
I thought it was interesting. Yeah,
you got through it in a whole weekend.
That's
yes,
amazing.
We were on a trip. I had a book that she'd given me that was like fluff, and I was like, I'm going to read that one first, and Maggie's going to read this monolithic book. She read the whole book in that trip. I could not believe it.
Wow.
She is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I tried.
That's amazing. It didn't help that both of my book clubs this month, one was this one and the other one was Joe Baker's The Telling, which takes place in 2 different timelines, and the 1830s timeline also takes place under like toxic religious leadership. So it was a lot for an October.
Yeah.
If you're scared of religion, it was like, I'm kind of glad this month's over and that I can start dealing with dead bodies in November. It's
Some light reading coming up.
It was, some light.
Maggie,
I'm ready for some fluff.
Do you typically read like super thick books? Like, is that like just the thing, or?
I mean, recently, yeah. It's not like something I seek out. Like, yes, this one's 800 pages. That means it's got to be good. But
the Orange Tree. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I fell out of habit of reading in general a while ago, and then have only recently started getting into it. So then a lot of the books that I've been reading have just happened to be nonfiction. So this one was easy to get into, of just the same mentality of, yeah, it's a big book. Mm-hmm. Keep on going. There are witches there. That's got to be interesting. So.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely, I feel like I'm being harsh on it. Like, I hate when I read books and I feel like somebody's put so much work into this and I'm like bashing it. Like, why did she word it this way? And it's like, my God, she had a lot happening at once, Patches. Like, hey, like, give her a break. But there was, I mean, I guess it's just reading nonfiction, you expect answers and you want all this stuff. But again, like I think Linda was saying, like, we're never going to truly know exactly what the hell was going on other than just the blame game, like just people pointing fingers in every direction and then at each other, which again blew me away. I couldn't believe I learned a lot. I did learn a lot. I will finish it eventually, hopefully by the end of the year, because again, this was kind of refreshing little history for me too. I love that. Yeah, so thank you guys so much. And this is, I don't know the times to do this, an hour and a half. An hour and a half I think is like a good amount of time, like more than we need. But again, as more people join, we're probably gonna have to accommodate. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and I'm gonna upload this. And thank you. Oh, Samantha was saying that you can buy books from Goodwill online, try on eBay, shortages like that too. So yeah, thrift books is really great. I've been ordering a lot on eBay too. But thank you guys again. I'm going to upload this to YouTube then we will have a poll up for our December book. And then I'll see you guys at the end of November talking about dead bodies.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you guys. I will see you guys soon.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.